Oh, it's October 7th, 2024, and you're watching another episode of the Interesting Times podcast right here on the Beck Lover podcast, where I gather all the news stories, all the headlines, all the gossip, interesting things, science, health, whatever is fascinating out there or important for you to know. I do all the homework for you. I keep you in the know, and I give you my perception of what might be coming our way. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. You can watch this podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, and you can listen to it anywhere podcasts are available. I'd really appreciate the subscribe, the heart, the like, the comment. It really helps me more than you can ever begin to imagine. And for those of you that already follow and support, I truly appreciate you, as much of the content that I've made over the last few years has gone extremely viral. Billions and billions of views. Make sure you check out all the other handles on my Instagram, my X Spaces that I host with some of the biggest content creators on the platform. And I do live streams from here to here. And I will be going out into the world streaming on a lot of different platforms. So there's a ton of content coming. It's not just this podcast. Make sure you check me out at BEK. That's Beck with no C. Beck Lover NYC. And you'll find all my handles, or just go to becklover.com. In any event, let's jump into the stories today. Today marks exactly 1 year. 1 year since this bloodbath in the Middle East began, when Hamas, the Palestinians, crossed a wall that I thought no one could ever get past. There's been a lot of research done, a lot of studies, a lot of reports on how they were able to even penetrate the impenetrable wall with sensors, AI, drones, satellites, guard towers. Guards were noticing that there was irregularly, I can't even say the word. Many of the guards that were guarding that wall on the Israeli side noticed a lot of things that just weren't making sense at the time. Some of them had voiced their opinions, and seems like there was some gross neglect, in my opinion now, a year later, after analyzing a lot of the reports and the stuff that's come out. Seems like they may have known, I think, in advance, some of the superiors, and they didn't do what they should have done. I don't know. What do you think? A year later, I'd love to hear your comments. In any event, here's the reality. A lot of the hostages died. Some of them got released from the Israeli side. Over 40,000 plus civilians, mostly, are now dead on the Palestinian side, including half of them being women and children. We've seen aid workers, ambulances, journalists all get killed in this conflict. We've seen 4 countries pulled into it: Yemen, Lebanon, Syria. I believe even Iraq had a brief moment in this conflict. It's nowhere even close to being done. Beirut is being bombed as we speak. And in my opinion, Israel has lost this war, regardless if they win the military campaign. As I was speaking to one of my Jewish friends today, and I do love my Jewish friends, I do love my family that's of Jewish descent. But criticizing the actions of a government doesn't make you anti-Jewish or anti-human. Many times I criticize the American government. Many times, almost every single day. It's because I love my country that I pay attention to what the leaders of our country are doing. And based on my opinions and my perception of life, I make recommendations of what I think they're doing wrong. And I've done the same for Israel since the day this conflict started. I even brought an Israeli on, Chanel Amari. She's a comedian. And I discussed, regardless of how horrible what happened on October 7th a year ago was, you are a people claiming to be the only civilized ones, lovers of freedom, defenders of what's right in the Middle East. And if your response is so excessive, you're going to do more harm to your state than you can even begin to imagine. And I believe that is what has happened. Yes, Israel has more firepower, has America as its piggy bank, supplier of weapons and personnel. And yeah, they could easily just carpet bomb the entire Middle East and turn it into a parking lot. No one denies their firepower. But that doesn't mean you won. Winning is you take the moral high ground, even when your heart is swollen. As the Albanians say, a swollen heart will leave you without a head. Because of the rash response, the way Netanyahu and his government handled the aftermath of 1 year ago today, in my opinion, the state of Israel has forever stained any type of perception they want to give that they are a people full of mercy, they can critically think, they can do what's right even when things go wrong. I was critical as someone that came out from under the World Trade Center the day it was hit 24 years ago. My heart was swollen as an American. I did want revenge, if I'm being honest. And I'm a Muslim. I had the American flag. But when I saw the aftermath of what happened because of that day and the gross misuse of war to punish many people that had nothing to do with what happened on 9/11, I don't support anything that my government did in the aftermath of those days. And the millions of lives lost and destroyed forever only created more animosity, more enemies. Here we are 24 years later, and the Taliban still in power, more armed than ever, still getting money from my government. And as someone that's lost his family in war, the hardest thing I ever had to do was to look into the mirror and realize that as an Albanian in origin, not all Serbians are evil, and not all of them agreed with what Milosevic and his people did at that time. It's when we put all people in one box that we lose as humanity, that generations become scarred and the turmoil and the chaos continues, and violence only begets violence. Here we are 25 plus years after the conflict in my country, where my family comes from, started. And if we really look at it, no one won in that war. A lot of innocent people died, and the animosity still exists to this day. I don't have an answer for how it should end over there. Both sides want the other side completely gone and out. Some may even have more of a historical claim, depending where you want to look at history. Do you want to start 2,000 years ago, or do you want to start 75 years ago? What is fair? What is not? The only thing I know is that all human beings should be treated with dignity, respect. And if you had to push people out of their homes to create your homeland, then you can't be surprised when at the same time they want you out. There is no way to win in this conflict. The only way to win, if you're Israelis, is to completely wipe out the Palestinians. And the Palestinians, the only way you might win is if you could wipe them out, or somehow have mercy if they ever did the right thing with your people, which I don't believe they have. I don't even blame the Israelis, and I don't even blame the Palestinians at all. I blame the Europeans, the colonizers, the Germans, and especially the British, who helped create that state without being fair to the people that were already living there, regardless of how long they lived there. They unleashed a desperate population from war, tragedy, the Holocaust, onto another desperate people under occupation from British colonizers, which is truly what led to this never-ending battle, which I believe will end in catastrophe. For the Palestinians, I don't see them ever going back to Gaza, and I believe one day this will lead to the downfall, in my opinion, of those that think they are winning today. Violence is never the answer, and God does not support collateral damage. Even if you feel you're justified because you had 1,000 supposedly killed by Hamas, that doesn't give you the right to kill 40,000 innocent people. In the end, we have all lost, as Christians, Muslims, Jews, human beings. The images I've seen over the last year will haunt me for the rest of my life. My heart goes out to every single person on all sides of this conflict, who had to bury their children, who had to lose everything they had, who had to endure the pain and suffering, whether they're an Israeli taken hostage or a Palestinian who's blown to pieces by bombs provided by my government, my tax dollars, that I have blood on my hands as an American that I wish I didn't. I wish my government would stay out of these things. It would also be hypocritical as an Albanian, because America did come to our aid when we were in need in the Kosovo War. I am lost for words a year later. I am truly saddened by what I've seen, what we can do to each other. I've experienced this throughout my life. When I lost my family in the Kosovo War, I was full of rage. I didn't want to believe that there was a single good Serbian anywhere in the world. But I've learned that that's not the case, that we can't put all people in one box. And I guess what I'm asking is the people of Israel to put their hands on their heart and realize that not all Palestinians are evil. They have a lot of right to their claims. They were there in pretty big numbers before you guys came from Europe. It is not fair, and there will never be peace unless one of you wipe each other out or somehow, some way, you find a way to forgive and to create a permanent solution so all of your children can coexist, live in peace and harmony. I truly am saddened by what's going on over there. I've always wanted to visit the Temple Mount, the Al-Aqsa Mosque, walk in the footsteps of Jesus, and witness what would be probably the most amazing history to witness. I don't think I'll ever get that chance. I will never visit Israel in this type of situation, ever. I don't know how you all feel about it, but this war needs to end. Please drop a comment. Let me know what you're thinking. I have some articles to read here, and I have some cool footage. We're going to go to my friend Subway DJ, who's actually in the protest going on right now in New York City. October 7th anniversary, live updates. Nearly 1,000 protesters crowd Wall Street. Vigils around the globe honor the victims, right, which is from the Israeli side. These are live shots from Israel right now. In the streets of New York, 2,000 people marching in anti-Israel protests make its way uptown. The crowd of anti-Israeli protesters who started on Wall Street and have been moving uptown has grown to a couple thousand, now spanning East Houston Street in the Soho area. They are shouting Gaza to the beat of drums. A group of anti-Israel protesters that gathered at the New York Stock Exchange earlier this afternoon is now making its way uptown. I have someone that's in their midst. This is a good friend of mine, Subway DJ. I got to be honest with you, you need to follow Subway DJ. His content has been nothing short of like amazing to watch and interesting. And every night he's in the middle of these protests and people screaming and yelling and fighting and getting arrested and people getting beaten. And I mean, he's been getting some phenomenal footage. Let's see. This is from today, a couple hours ago.
Old MacDonald had a farm.
He makes fun of the police that are on site. This woman was arrested for spitting on a pro-Palestinian protester.
Yeah, take a photo. Take a video. She just spat on somebody. Are you kidding me? Take a photo.
There's a pile of shit here on the floor. Here are some other shots of the Palestinian side of the protest. Massive flags, thousands of people, all the streets and all the blocks blocked off.
Promotion? Promotion? Girl's got the pot.
And you see people fighting back and forth, both sides.
Oh! You faggot! Whoa! Yeah, you're a terrorist lover! Oh, God! You love terrorists! Uh-oh! Fuck you!
This is a pro-Israeli person screaming derogatory terms towards the Palestinian protesters.
Whoa! I'm not worried. My people are dying to leave. It's not because of us. It's because of the barbarian, the savagery. Fuck all of you. I hope you die first.
Whoa!
You're the first one to string out.
Whoa!
Okay, genocide.
Here are some Jews protesting for the people of Palestine and Lebanon, that they're against Israel's actions.
I'm a New Yorker. I think everybody deserves equal rights. I think that these I grew up in the suburbs of New York. I think these people are deeply anti-Semitic. I think they hate Jews.
The hustle never stops.
So another thing that I've noticed, okay, and I want to clarify this. I noticed over these last year, all these protests in major cities like New York and this and that, the local police have nothing to do with international conflict. And a lot of times the protesters take it out on the police. They're not the ones setting policy or enforcing it, especially abroad. And I feel bad for them because every night they're caught on the crossfire between these protesters. And it's not like they have any power. They're just going to make sure that these two sides don't kill each other. So go out there and protest all you want, but just take it easy on the police, man. It's not their fault what's going on overseas. It's really not. Barron's reports, Hezbollah says targeted Israeli military base near Tel Aviv. Lebanese militant group Hezbollah said it has targeted an Israeli military intelligence base near Tel Aviv on Monday. The Iran-backed group said it fired a salvo of rockets at the Gilo base of military intelligence unit 8200 on the outskirts of Tel Aviv. BBC reports powerful explosions rocked Beirut overnight. And we're watching live imagery of bombs dropping right in the heart of Beirut, Lebanon. Massive bomb with a massive cloud for those of you that are listening to this episode. Multiple blasts have shaken the southern suburbs of Lebanon's capital, Beirut, amid Israeli airstrikes on the night before the anniversary of the 7 October Hamas attack against Israel. And now on to other news. Diddy's A-list pals quietly paying off victims to avoid being publicly named. Lawyer. Let's see what he had to say.
He paid up in an attempt to keep their identities private. He told TMZ, quote, if you were attending one of these parties and you were there in the room, or you participated, or you watched it happen and didn't say anything, or you helped cover it up, in my view, you have a problem. Tony says that
some big name celebrities are quietly paying off victims to avoid being publicly named in lawsuits related to the Diddy assault case. Attorney Tony Busby, who is representing more than 120 of Sean Diddy Combs' alleged victims, told TMZ that huge stars are about to be sued by his firm, and he's giving them a chance to settle up before the claims hit public court. Sounds like some public extortion, son. Sounds like some people are going to be paying money even if they didn't do anything wrong, just not to get dragged into these lawsuits in the public eye. I mean, oh yeah. In every single case, especially cases like this, because it's in the best interest of the victim, we attempt to resolve these matters without filing of a public lawsuit, and we've done that already with a handful of individuals, many of which you've heard of before. This is reported by the New York Post. Busby will be separately lodging a slew of lawsuits, including on behalf of 25 minors. If you were in the room, participated, watched it happen, and didn't say anything or helped cover it up, in my view, you have a problem. Here's a shot of Diddy in the background, two women with their tops off. Again, that doesn't mean he did anything wrong. Yet. Truly believe people are innocent until proven guilty. I'm not saying Diddy's not guilty, but we still need to do justice to protect everyone. Sean Combs' mother, Diddy's mother, says she's devastated and profoundly saddened by allegations against him. Janice Small Combs is defending her superstar son, Sean Diddy Combs. The musician and producer is currently in federal custody as he awaits trial for his indictment in the Southern District of New York on counts of racketeering, conspiracy, trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He has pleaded not guilty. Combs is also facing multiple civil lawsuits accusing him of a range of sexual misconduct, and other illegal activity. I come to you today as a mother that is devastated and profoundly saddened by the allegations against my son. It is heartbreaking to see my son judged not for the truth, but for a narrative created out of lies. She wrote, to bear witness what seems like a public lynching of my son before he's had the opportunity to prove his innocence is a pain too unbearable to put in words. The case has put a spotlight on the music mogul's alleged lifestyle away from public view. In their indictment, federal prosecutors cited alleged freak-offs, Sean Combs' name for elaborate sex performances in which he is accused of drugging and coercing victims into performing extended sex acts with male sex workers. My son may not have been entirely truthful about certain things, such as denying he has ever gotten violent with an ex-girlfriend when the hotel surveillance showed otherwise, she wrote in her statement. Sometimes the truth and the lie become so closely intertwined that it becomes terrifying to admit one part of the story, especially when the truth is outside the norm or is too complicated to be believed. His mother wrote that she believes her son's civil legal team opted to settle the ex-girlfriend's lawsuit instead of contesting it until the end, resulting in a ricochet effect as the federal government used this decision against my son by interpreting it as an admission of guilt. It is important to recognize that none of us, regardless of our status, are immune to fear or mistakes. She wrote, not being entirely straightforward about one issue does not mean my son is guilty of the repulsive allegations and the grave charges leveled against him. I really hope he makes it to this trial and lives and gets things done. Hurricane Milton, is a new storm that is heading straight for Florida again. It is now at 175 miles per hour, Category 5 monster, as it threatens biggest hit on Tampa in 100 years. This is right after the last storm. Florida's west coast is facing the worst hurricane threat in over 100 years. Forecasters warned Monday as Hurricane Milton grew into a massive Category 5 storm. More than 15 million Floridians were under the threat from Milton, which has winds of up to 175 miles per hour, as the storm took aim at Tampa and St. Petersburg, threatening 8 to 12 feet of deadly storm surge. The last time a Category 5 storm of such magnitude hit the region was in 2019 with Hurricane Dorian, which formed in the Bahamas and skirted Florida's east coast. Milton has formed in the Gulf of Mexico and is expected to slam into Florida head-on, bringing the worst storm surges between Anclote River north of Clearwater and Inglewood north of Fort Myers. To make matters worse, the angle of the landfall could allow the new storm system to become the worst in over 100 years for parts of West Florida. Tampa hasn't been hit with a major deadly hurricane since 1921, when 11 feet of storm surge inundated what is now the downtown section of the city. It's a huge population, it's very exposed, very inexperienced, and that's a losing proposition. My thoughts and prayers for the people of the region. I love Tampa. I was just there not even a month ago. I was there end of August into September. So I'm praying for them, and I called my friends out there. Shout out to Danny Jones, who always brings me on his show, Matt Cox, and my friend Matt Bell. Praying for you. And with the response that we've seen in North Carolina and these other regions, which was horrible, we had some reporters pressing the White House today about their response in FEMA.
Impacted areas.
This is on Twitter, courtesy of Fox News.
People want to do disinformation, misinformation, which is dangerous. Because then when folks on the ground hear that, they may not want to ask for the help that they need. That is there for them. That's our focus here.
But President Biden is fond of saying, show me your budget and I will tell you what you value. If he's got money for people in Lebanon right now, without Congress having to come back, what does it say about his values? There's not enough money right now for people in North Carolina who need it.
What the American people have a problem with is, on one side, we're funding the war in Lebanon by supporting Israel unchecked, blank check, as much money, weapons, whatever you need. They create disaster in Lebanon, and then the American people also have to pay to help the destruction and the chaos of the aftermath of the bombing that we support. And then you have Americans that are trapped, dying, destroyed from a storm, and another one coming on our shores. And the response has been nothing short of horrific based on all the analysis that I've done, watching the news and reaching out to people in the region. Friends of mine have actually gone out that way to try and help. My friend The Muscle and Nino Rodriguez and a lot of other people have been keeping track of this. And there's people from New York and New Jersey that have left, which is a happy story in some ways, because I love how Americans from other states are going down there trying to help our fellow Americans. This is a beautiful thing, even though it had to be shown in such a sad way. I'm worried about Florida, and it's just crazy. Like, we fund the destruction and we give the money to the people that got, like, it's just so crazy. And me and you are always paying for it. It would just be easier to not have any more wars that we support, bring our troops back, stop all this fucking shit. People want to fight their wars. They've been a country now for 75 years. They got money. They got connections. Why do we have to keep paying for their wars? Why? I don't see any interest in it to the American people. I see the American people getting left in the lurch during emergencies. Someone else that's being left in the lurch. Mayor Eric Adams, another one, bites the dust. Philip Banks III, Adams Public Safety Deputy and longtime confidant, resigns under mounting pressure. Philip Banks III, Mayor Eric Adams, Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and a longtime associate of the mayor, resigned Sunday night, weeks after his home was raided and phone seized by federal authorities. The exit from Adams' team is one of several by top Adam advisors, including schools. Basically, if I had to guess, the feds got him good. Now they tell him, we don't want you, we want the mayor. You testify against him, and we won't try you with nothing. So he's going to sing like a canary. Georgia Supreme Court reinstates a 6-week abortion ban, reversing the lower court ruling. ABC News. The Georgia State Supreme Court reinstated the state's 6-week abortion ban on Monday after a lower court allowed abortions to resume in the state. The ruling goes into effect at 5 p.m. Eastern Time and will remain in place while the courts hear the state's appeal, which was filed by Christopher Carr. You don't want to know what the word Carr means in Albanian, but ask an Albanian and they'll gladly tell you. Fundamentally, the state should not be in the business of enforcing laws that have been determined to violate fundamental rights guaranteed to millions of individuals under the Georgia Constitution, he wrote. The status quo that should be maintained is the state of the law before the challenged laws took effect. On September 30th, Fulton County Superior Court Judge Robert McBurney ruled that the ban was unconstitutional, writing in his decision that Georgia state constitution guaranteed the right to liberty, which includes a woman's right to control what happens to and within her body. The ban, which was signed into law in 2019 by Brian Kemp, the governor, prevents abortions from being performed once fetal cardiac activity can be detected. That means that once that little thing in your womb has a heartbeat, they're saying, can we just stop taking these babies out before the heartbeat? Unless it's a really serious situation. I'm very pro-life, with the exceptions of incest or rape, okay? But because you couldn't figure out that you got knocked up, that you should be able to have a right to take a child out 7 months, 6 months, 5 months, 4 months, I got a problem with that. Russian court jails U.S. citizen for nearly 7 years on Ukraine mercenary charge. A Russian court on Monday sentenced a 72-year-old citizen to 6 years and 7 months in prison after convicting him in a closed-door trial of serving as a mercenary for Ukraine. Investigators said Stephen James Hubbard, a native of Michigan, was paid $1,000 per month to serve in a Ukrainian territorial defense unit in the eastern city of Izum, where he had been living since 2014. They said Hubbard was provided with training, weapons, and ammunition when he allegedly signed up in February 2022, the same month that Moscow sent thousands of troops into Ukraine. Hubbard was detained by Russian soldiers on April 2nd. I mean, what did he think he was going to do at the age of 72? Like, was Ukraine really that desperate for soldiers that they needed this guy? 72 years old. I mean, seriously, like if you're all that's left to fight for the country, I guess it's fallen, in my opinion. If I had a 72-year-old show up and I was a general of a battle, I'd be like, listen, buddy, we might need a cook or something, but it's just crazy. What's even more crazy is a Mexican mayor was decapitated 6 days after taking office, head found on a truck. Alejandro Arcos was killed just 6 days after he took office as mayor of the city of Chilpancingo, a city of around 280,000 people in southwestern Mexico. It looks like a nice guy. The mayor of the capital of Mexico's violence-plagued state of Guerrero was killed on Sunday, less than a week after he took office. Alejandro Arcos was killed just 6 days after he took office as mayor. His loss mourns the entire Guerrero society and fills us with indignation, Guerrero Governor Evelyn Salgado said in a statement shared on social media. Guerrero State Attorney General's office also said it was investigating his murder. Crazy. 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 Teen achieves NES Tetris rebirth, proves endless play is possible. Months ago, 13-year-old Willis Blue Scooty Gibson became the first person to beat NES Tetris. You know the game Tetris? Bam 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 bam. I used to love that game. Crashing the game after a 1,511 line, 157 level performance over the weekend, 16-year-old Michael, dog playing Tetris, Arteaga became the first to reach an even more impressive plateau in the game, looping past level 255 and instantly rolling the game all the way back to ultra slow level 0. It took Arteaga a bit over 80 minutes and a full 3,300 cleared lines to finally achieve the game's first near mythical rebirth, live in front of hundreds of Twitch viewers, and after a bit of celebration and recovery on the low levels, Arteaga managed to keep his rolled over game going for another 40 minutes, finally topping out after a total of 4,216 lines and a record 29.4 million points.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I might just start going for rebirth now. Why does AI love Jade Pensies? I mean, they're just actually good for your stack compared to like making them.
Does he actually get there? Level 224. Okay. When does he hit rebirth?
Bro, look at this, bro.
Okay, he hits rebirth
So
here. Let's see if we can see how let's see his reaction. Let's see his reaction here. Let's see. It's amazing how fast this kid can just turn these things, man. Like, I could never do that. He's on level 249. Which is crazy. Level 250. I think this is the last level, and then he hits it. Let's see what happens here. Before I get you guys bored here. Let's see here. 251.
Oh my.
Okay, he does it. Hang on. This is the part. Here we go. Level 254.
10, 11, 12.
255.
Oh my god, Ash, that was gonna end at 254.
Let's see.
I just messed it up. All the ore is gone
it.
now. It's all gone.
It's crazy how
It's all
fast
gone.
this kid is.
It actually was all gone. That's crazy.
Unreal how fast he
all
puts
gone,
these
bro.
pieces in without letting it build up.
It's actually all gone, bro. Oh my god! Oh my god!
He did it.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god, Ash got rebirth!
He sounds like he's having an
Oh my
orgasm.
god! Oh my god!
He sounds like he's having an orgasm. Well, he's the Tetris king. If your blood pressure seems a little high, they might be doing things that make it higher when they take it. Commonly used arm positions can substantially overestimate blood pressure readings, study finds. Study led by Johns Hopkins Medicine researchers concludes that commonly used ways of positioning the patient's arm during blood pressure screenings can substantially overestimate test results and may lead to a misdiagnosis of hypertension. In a report on the study, which was published October 7th, in JAMA Internal Medicine, investigators examined the effects of 3 different arm positions: an arm supported on a desk, arm supported on a lap, and an arm supported hanging at the patient's side. Researchers found that the lap support overestimated systolic pressure by nearly 4, and an unsupported arm hanging at the side overestimated systolic pressure by nearly 7 mm. The findings confirm that the arm position makes a huge difference when it comes to accurate blood pressure measurement. And they underscore, okay, so basically read up on that. Something that I've been saying for a long time, okay? And I think there's a link to these shooters. I'm telling you, okay? We need to start demanding toxicology reports. What's in the blood of the mass shooters that go into schools? FDA antidepressant warnings of suicide risk among kids may have the opposite effect. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has warned that antidepressants may be linked with suicidal thoughts and behaviors among youth since 2003, leading to a black box warning for minors in 2005 and an expansion to young adults in 2007. The black box or boxed warning refers to a prominent warning encased in a bold black border in the labeling or pamphlet of some medication. It's meant to raise awareness of certain risks of taking the drug and to increase physician monitoring of suicidality. New research has found boxed warnings on antidepressants may have had unintended negative consequences for pediatric health care and suicidality, including reductions in mental health care and increases in psychotropic drug poisonings and suicide deaths, according to the systematic review published Monday in the journal Health Affairs. Our goal was to assess the intended and unintended outcomes of the youth antidepressant warnings by conducting a systematic review of the most credible evidence in the field. We screened all available research reports on the warnings, focusing on those that met rigorous research design criteria, and synthesized the most trustworthy data available. Some found the surveillance of suicidality lacking. Following the FDA advisory and warning, doctors monitored fewer than 5% of pediatric patients. 3 studies reported increase in psychotropic drug poisonings, which suggests suicide attempts and suicide deaths in young children. I am telling you, I think there's a correlation between children that are on these pills and what's going on in schools. I really do, with the shooters. Someone in Ukraine was making a killing here. Corrupt Ukrainian official, son found lying in a bed with huge sum of money, $6 million in total seized from medical fraud. He was taking a lot of money to get people medical exemptions so they don't have to be in the draft to fight against Russia, which is probably why they needed a 72-year-old in the last story. Here's real footage. This bed is full of cash of all different types of currencies. They found this guy with millions of dollars so he could give medical exemptions so Ukrainians don't have to fight. Bolivia wildfires burned record areas, scorching homes and farms. It looks like a barren wasteland. Santa Cruz, hardest hit with nearly 7 million hectares burned, thousands displaced, homes and livelihoods. Government declares national disaster. Wildfires have been burned through more than 10 million hectares this year, mostly in the country's tropical east, smashing records for its worst ever fire season. Unreal. Tekashi's going back into music. He just signed a deal, that rat. Here's a video of a 7-Eleven clerk fighting back against a takeover robbery. This is how lawless it's become in certain places. This is in California. They're trying to break in these they're all hooded. The poor clerk is trying to fight to keep the doors of the 7-Eleven closed. And this group of young men eventually break into the store, destroy it, throw stuff everywhere, and they punch the 7-Eleven worker really hard in the face. He's bleeding. And this is the world that we live in America. Gavin Newsom is doing a phenomenal job in America. Gavin Newsom has made California safer. And if he was president, he would make America safe. Gavin Newsom is the best. I hope that this 7-Eleven worker realizes the amazing job that Gavin Newsom is doing for California. This is a 7-Eleven in California. Thank you, Gavin Newsom. And if this guy tried to defend his life using a firearm, God forbid, he'd go to jail for the rest of his life. This is not what the founding forefathers wanted for the American people. So, this video went viral of this animal that they caught who punched a baby in the face. Horrified moment, 1-year-old girl is slapped by a raging man while yelling at terrified tourist family in Barcelona. This is the horrifying moment. A 1-year-old girl was slapped by a raging man in Barcelona. Shocking footage shows the man screaming at the family of tourists, including the little girl standing in front of him. The child's father swooped his crying daughter up in his arms before he and the girl's mother quickly walked away from the man. The little girl suffered minor injuries and did not require hospital treatment. The 31-year-old man, an Ecuadorian national, allegedly assaulted 2 other people over the weekend before he was arrested. You know, like a migrant, like an illegal migrant. Guess they're not just in America. Here's video footage of that. This is disturbing. Okay? He slaps the baby. This is why you can't afford to be a weak man in today's world. If you can't even defend your child when you see an emotionally distressed person and you can tell he's about to slap your kid and you're taking your sweet ass time and you don't retaliate, bro, I would have put this guy in a coma for hitting my baby. And he's not even armed. That is a weak man. A weak man. And in any event, they arrested this piece of shit My last story, we go to Elon Musk.
When you say, what are the aliens?
Talking to Tucker Carlson about aliens.
Where are the aliens? Like, why don't we see them? A lot of people think we see aliens, but I've not seen any evidence of aliens. We've got 6,000 satellites in orbit, and not once have we had to maneuver around an alien spacecraft.
Right. But on this Earth, the U.S. military has had to do a lot of maneuvering around objects they can't explain.
Well, unidentified flying objects is one thing, but there's always a bunch of classified programs that are underway of new aircraft and new missiles and things. So that are classified even within the military. So it's only if you have the top secret compartmented clearance, would you know about this new program? So then some pilot sees something moving fast and says, "Hey, I saw a UFO." I'm like, "Yeah, that was actually a new weapons program, but we can't tell you that." But you can guarantee that the split second I see any evidence of aliens, I will immediately post that on the X platform. And it'll probably be our #1 post of all time.
That'll be your biggest day,
yes,
for sure.
Now, for those of you that have followed my work, I said, I don't think there's aliens. I think there's interdimensional beings, demonic beings, whole different category. And I think these people worship them and work with them. And that's how some of this technology, like going to space, happened when you study the life of people like Jack Parsons. In any event, make sure you hit that sub button. I'm always bringing the heat. I appreciate all of you. Pray for peace in the Middle East. Pray for peace in Ukraine and Russia. Pray for the right person to take the Oval Office, even though I think we're screwed either way. And remember, we live in interesting times. Interesting times indeed.
Best Lover.